The Heed the Call podcast can't control too many narratives. Brain overload!
Oh! Welcome to Heed the Call, the Divisional Round playoffs recap. Dan Hanzus here with Marc Sessler, Conor Orr, Justin Graver on the ones and twos. And boys, isn't it funny? We talk so much for what we do for a living and everyone else about what games mean and legacies and rivalries and narratives and who is clutch and who's a choker and who's this and who's that. And in the end, and all this stuff gets kind of sanded down by time and people forget. But in the end, how often does it actually just come down to a guy dropped the ball? You know what I mean? And that's like what I thought as we watched, and we're going to get into that game first, the classic between the Ravens and Bills, about how all that stuff, all that Lamar and Allen talk, in 20 years people will just be like, oh, look at that. Lamar lost again in the playoffs. But really, sometimes it's just one tight end, a great tight end, having a really bad hour. Welcome to Heed the Call. What's up, Mark? How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Well, you're right, because who we're talking about is quarterbacks. And so what gets lost in the laundry and the wash is, you're right, Mark Andrews having one of the most reliable tight ends that we've known, having a disastrous appearance this evening, to the point where, and Conor pointed this out, that like on Twitter, people are wondering, did Mark Andrews quietly throw the game like the old, the old White Sox from the back in the day? And I don't think that's the case, but
nice Black Sox of 1919 ref, Mark. Yeah, you are on fire, right?
I'm a baseball person as well as a football person. So.
Conor, were you the one that sent that tweet out? You do say crazy stuff.
I feel like I would like to get back to the point where we can just accept things as
Conor
they
just
are.
Says crazy stuff.
I would love a moment where everyone's just like, oh, bless his heart, but now someone's like, try to find a ghost DraftKings account and see if he made $1 million, and it's just like, don't be a fucking loser, This is the worst moment of his life. Just let him get over it,
Exactly, and like I was thinking, like maybe I'm getting soft in old age, and I have sons and all that now, and it's like I just felt terrible for Mark Andrews, because that is something he's gonna have to wear and live with, and in the end, it was the difference in that game. A very good chance that game either goes to overtime, maybe the Bills go down the field to win. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into all the games, all four games that set up the championship weekend, which will be next Sunday. When the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs host the number 2 seed Buffalo Bills, and the number 2 seed Philadelphia Eagles host the number 6 seed Washington Commanders. Can you believe it? NFC East showdown in the National Football Conference. And yes, that classic Mahomes-Allen matchup that many thought we were going to see again after last year's close game. We're going to get it again next Sunday at Arrowhead. So let's get into it right now, how we got to that place. And let us start, yes, where we must, in Western New York. Yes, the Buffalo Bills were home on Sunday evening. The Buffalo Bills in their home had not lost all season. They were 9-0 entering this game. And yet, the Ravens were the popular pick to win this game because of how well they were playing on both sides of the ball. So, was Josh Allen going to be disappointed yet again? Allen did his part. He scored 2 touchdowns on the ground. The Bills forced 3 turnovers, but it still came down to Lamar Jackson taking the Ravens down the field in the final minutes of regulation, capped by a beautiful throw, a touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely, 24 yards, 2-point conversion. Lamar Jackson looks, spots Mark Andrews, bounces off Andrews' hands as he falls into the end zone. Onside kick ensuing, recovered by the Bills, and they escape 27-25 in a classic. Yes, the Bills finish their season at Highmark Stadium 10-0, and the Ravens again go home. Crushing fashion, Conor Orr. This is as painful as it gets because I guess here's the good news. If there's any good news for Lamar Jackson, the Lamarmy, is Lamar stepped up. He led his team down that field. They went 8 plays and 88 yards in 1 minute and 56 seconds. And he did spot the tight end for what should have been the game-tying 2-point conversion. It didn't work out, but you can't come out of this game saying Lamar failed. The Ravens just came up short because they made too many mistakes.
It's unbelievable. And I want to highlight 2 things on that last drive that really stood out to me. First, offensive linemen will say this a lot, but it deserves mentioning, especially in a time like this. Do you know how hard it is to block for Lamar Jackson because you never know where he is behind you? And so it's easy to redirect someone if you know where your quarterback's supposed to be and he's on his spot and you can push him somewhere. But if you push a guy, there's a good chance that Lamar's going in the direction that you're going to push someone. And so on that final drive, there's 2 or 3 of these dropbacks where he has 8, 9, 10 seconds. And yes, maybe, the other team's only rushing a few guys, but we'll get to another game where, teams are rushing 2 or 3 guys and getting into the backfield and sacking a quarterback 7 times. And so I thought that was incredible. And that's one of my least favorite 4th down or 2-point conversion plays ever, the rollout where you kind of scan the field and you hope that one receiver gets ahead of the defense.
Because you're cutting the field in half, right?
But yeah, exactly. But it worked. I mean, Mark Andrews is open, and it was funny too. If you pause it at the last second, if Lamar had decided not to go there, if he didn't feel comfortable, Rashad Bateman was getting wide open in the other direction, and it could have been like I think there was kind of like that throwback that was built into it too. But my goodness gracious, your heart just goes out to him. I mean, there's nothing else to say. It was everything else was perfect.
I'm with you. Lodged in my memory is that final pass to Mark Andrews. And from the television view, it looked like he caught it. It just seemed kind of like he had it and we're good. But then, the officials get involved and you find out it's not the case. And it's not on Lamar. This game is not on him, but it will be put that way. But this was also a situation where I thought you're 6 minutes to go in the first half, and Derrick Henry has 22 yards rushing. They weren't able to enforce their will early on the way they wanted to. But what an insane ending to this, and to have Mark Andrews, who I think has been one of the most reliable players around.
4 drops all
he just
year.
Does his. Right, he just simply does Mark Andrews things and does his job nonstop. To have this happen to him, it's an incredible end to a season for a team, and it's another look at it's so hard to get back here, and wow, I thought the Ravens would be somewhere different than this, and this is where they wound up. And I said last week, whoever loses this game, it's going to be a really rough, fortune, and that's the situation for Baltimore.
And don't forget, that wasn't Mark Andrews' only mistake he made in the fourth quarter, because when the game was 24-19, the Ravens were driving a 16-yard pass to Mark Andrews, who tries to make a move, and Terrell Bernard, Baylor alum, my father-in-law would be quick to tell you, punches the ball out, and it's recovered by Buffalo, which leads to their final points of the game, their long drive. 11-play, 52-yard drive that covered 5 minutes and led to the field goal that made it an 8-point game before the Ravens got the ball back for that last possession. Let's talk about that last possession for the Bills, because that was why, Mark, we were talking about, would you be the Dallas Cowboys coach if you got $30 million guaranteed? And you very quickly said no, because there's too much pressure. And there's too many prying eyes, and it feels like one of those things are, the second you put yourself in the shoes of a head coach and all that goes into that, you can start breaking out into sweat because of the pressure. The pressure that must have been on Sean McDermott, 4th and goal at the Baltimore 2-yard line. You have Josh Allen, the tank himself, as your quarterback, you convert that, you get it in the end zone with 3.5 minutes to play, you are going to the AFC title game, and you might have the number one quarterback in the world to get 2 yards, and yet you just got stuffed on the previous play on a Josh Allen attempt at a score, and you make the decision to kick the 21-yard field goal that pushes the game to 8, and yes, would have backfired if Mark Andrews doesn't drop that ball on the 2-point conversion. I'm curious what you guys thought about that play. In my mind, I was thinking, go for it, go for it, go for it. But at the same time, I understood it because going up 8 and turning the ball or putting your defense on the field, which had played very well to that point, you could make a case both ways. I saw an instant on social media. There was the odds said, the bot said that it's a 2% loss of win probability by kicking the field goal there, but that means very little to me. I'm curious what you guys thought.
I'm with you. I think it's been a weekend of aggressive play calling on fourth down.
Season,
and
right?
Late down. Season.
Yeah.
I mean, seasons in a row. So I hold the same opinion. I would have gone for it.
I liked kicking it, because and that could have been just because my thought is colored from having been at the Eagles game, having stood out on that field and feeling just how absolutely brutal and miserable it is outside. And, I wonder if there is something to the fact that, like, Mark Andrews gets that ball punched out, and we'll get to the Eagles game. There were 2 punch outs in that game too. Is there something to the fact that, like, there's a higher percentage chance that some shit's going to go wrong here in this weather? You're going to trip, you're going to fall. It's harder to get your footing. So if you're McDermott, it's like, okay, I'm giving myself the maximum amount of cushion. You can't score more than 8 points in one play. And so go travel the length of the field now and try to figure it out in this weather. I thought that wasn't terrible, but granted, just like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Sean McDermott is who Sean McDermott is, and then he has to wear that, right? And it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type decision for him.
Yeah, it was a tough call, and they ultimately win the game, but not because of that call. They kind of got lucky there. Yeah, you mentioned the Derrick Henry side of things, Mark, and that's why I think so many people picked the Ravens in this game, because we've all been watching. There was something, and I don't know, I feel like this, if you're a Ravens fan, if you're listening right now or watching, shout out to you, because this can't be easy right now, but it felt like something historic was starting to peak with this Ravens team, because you had this MVP level quarterback having one of the great seasons of all time at the position, and then Derrick Henry, who regular season and a playoff game went over 2,000 yards rushing. And Lamar Jackson, by the way, went over 1,000 yards rushing in this game, the first pair of teammates ever to go 2,000 and 1,000 in the same season. So the offense had reached a level where it felt unstoppable, and it felt that way on the first possession of the game when the Ravens go right down the field, bang, bang, boom, touchdown, and it's like, oh, wow, this is going to be a coronation for the Ravens, who are going to go, cruise to New Orleans as a Super Bowl favorite. But I thought what the Bills did, Mark, was smart, or maybe it was logical, but it felt like they decided, we are not going to let Derrick Henry beat us. We are going to put everything into how we play this game to stuff their running game. And if Lamar in the passing game beats us, we can live with it. And I don't know. So the fact that Henry just gets 16 carries, is that because Todd Monken in Baltimore sensed the same thing and they got off the running game? Or did they fail because they weren't running the football enough and they should have been more true to Derrick Henry in this game?
Well, it's interesting because the way that the Ravens season ended a year ago, and this is different than that, was that they weren't who they were in that loss in the AFC title game a year ago. And it kind of made me think of it's a strange reference, but the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, where Belichick's entire mission was to take Marshall Faulk out of the game. Like, no matter what, we're going to beat him up, we're going to take him out. And Henry did end up with 80-plus yards, but it was like, we're going to take at least one person out of this entirely and make them have to act a different way. And, through 2 quarters at least, they were able to do that. And I give the Bills defense, because the Bills defense allowed 400-plus yards. But what they do is they create turnovers and chaos. They have been good at that, and they did that tonight. And removing Henry from the game plan was a big part of it. But the Bills, that's the one thing they're going to do, is they're going to create turnovers and chaos. And I thought they did a nice job of that tonight.
Here's Josh Allen after the game with Tracy Wolfson.
Josh, we know how bad you wanted it. I can tell by the reaction. reaction that when you just came over. When you were standing on that sideline, though, and you saw that touchdown go in, and then the 2-point conversion try, what was going through your head?
How about that Buffalo Bills defense? All year, this team has heard we got no talent. We're too small. We can't stop the run. We're not good enough to compete. We just put our head down and worked hard. I'm so proud of our defense. I'm so proud of our offense and special teams. What a complete win. Obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, we wish we scored a little more, so we didn't have to take it down to the fourth quarter like that. But that's a really good team. Credit to them as well.
He's like a Derek Carr all-star, by the way. A California guy who went to like Wyoming, and he has a southern drawl. I gotta get to the bottom of this. Anyway, again, like going back to the original point, Connor, these things get sanded down by time. Josh Allen leading with what a job by the defense. Well, they went right down the field, 88 yards, and then they were about to give up the 2-point conversion too, and the tight end drops the ball. But whatever, it's a minor quibble. I understand where he's coming from. The defense did keep a very historically good Ravens offense.
They created 2 fumbles and an interception. I do think they took the ball away from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. That's what I'd say.
There is always like a pressure, like, back when I covered the Jets, right, where Rex Ryan had a policy where every player during an interview had to mention 2 teammates and a coach as like a complimentary thing. They couldn't talk about themselves. And I do think that that's like, that just could be kind of what's going on here with Josh Allen. Like even in Philly, like today, Saquon Barkley was talking about his touchdown run, and he's just like, yeah, I remembered all the box breathing exercises that my therapist taught me before the game. And it's just like, yeah, well, yeah, but also like, Jordan Mailata destroyed somebody on that run too. Like, there's other stuff we could point to, but whatever. I think it's nice everyone's trying to compliment one another.
It's good sportsmanship. Can I give a shout out to Tyler Bass, by the way? That 51-yard field goal he hits was a huge moment in the game, I thought, and Romo was very demonstrative about it on the telecast. I mean, they come out, Buffalo has a great first half. They take a 21-10 lead into the tunnel. They come out, they have the football, and then it's almost like they start to go into a little bit of a, protection mode. Like they're playing it a little bit safe, and it's like they had to be smarter than that. You can't do that against the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, and sure enough, they have 2 fruitless drives, the Bills. The Ravens get a field goal and then a touchdown. They go for 2 and miss 2, but they put up 9 straight points. So when the Bills' third drive of the second half stalls out, you're now sending out your kicker, who, by the way, your season ended with the same kicker, Tyler Bass, missing one wide right against the Chiefs in the divisional playoffs. You send him out there in very cold conditions to hit one from 51 out. If he misses that, it is the Ravens at midfield down 2 with all the momentum in the world. So, again, as somebody who likes to shout out kickers, that kind of calmed things down, because not only did that get points back on the board, got the lead back to 5, which eventually turns into 8, which ends up being enough to be the win. It allows them then to kick off and kind of reset things and calm things down. So to the point that you made, Mark, like the Bills didn't play a perfect game here, but they really played a cleaner game, and the reason the Ravens are going home is their operation had been clean all season. And yet again, in another January, and you could do narratives or whatever the you want, in another January playoff game, they didn't play like they played when they were steamrolling the competition earlier in the season.
And here we are again. Like it's not a Lamar story this time, but it's a Ravens story. Here we are.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on this one, guys?
I thought that, for McDermott, I think, again, we talked about what a big game the Kansas City win was in his decision-making during the regular season. I thought that, really, yes, you gave up a lot of yardage, but I thought what they did was you have all these different things that people have done to kind of slow down the Ravens throughout the season, and you just saw like a little bit of it sprinkled in here, a little bit of it sprinkled in there. This Bills defense did look amoebic at times, where it was hard to see, for Baltimore to get a beat on what they were doing, and they blitzed a lot at the beginning of the game. They were super active at the beginning of the game. I think one of the highest rates that they've actually sent pressure over the first half of a game in the year. So it does show that, like, I do think he's evolving too, and that's cool, and that's a different component of as you head into this Kansas City game next week.
And I'll give a little shout out on the Bills' defensive side of the ball. You have Damar Hamlin in this game who makes plays. You have, let's see, Von Miller.
Ed Oliver played a great game.
Oliver played a great game. Matt Milano played with his hair on fire in this game. And then Von Miller, another sneaky, again, that's a difference in games like this. He scoops up that Lamar fumble in the first half. He runs it back 50 yards. And you're watching it, and even as a non-Bills fan, you see the Ravens defender coming up on his blind spot from the right side with the club of death on it where he's holding the football. Somehow he doesn't fumble the ball. I was just amazed that he didn't fumble the ball on that. So this was, I mean, it was the Bills' night, and they made the plays they needed to make, and as a result, they get another crack at the Chiefs, which has been a house of horrors for them. But maybe this year will be better than the last. Always got to dot the I's with Adam Duritz.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Okay, we hit one AFC game. So why don't we go ahead and hit the other AFC game? How did we get to the Bills-Chiefs rematch? To Arrowhead we go. Yes, Patrick Mahomes has never lost in the divisional playoffs. The Houston Texans, they have never won. I'll give you one guess what happened in this game. It's not that simple, but it also is. The Kansas City Chiefs did what the Kansas City Chiefs do. They play smart, disciplined, under-control football. The Houston Texans make way too many mistakes and don't get any help. And I mean any help from, like I said, the Chiefs or the officiating in this game. And in the end, another huge Travis Kelce game and a special Patrick Mahomes pass and a big stop and a great performance by the pass rusher. You know this story before. We've been watching this playoff game for a long time. Chiefs 23, Texans 14. The Chiefs, like the Bills, finish undefeated in their first 10 games, but they get one more next week against Buffalo. Mark, this game had the people hot. It's funny how we have reached this this tipping point with Kansas City. It happened much quicker with the Patriots back in the day, but now it feels like people are just so sick of the Chiefs that there seemed to be a lot of vitriol about Kansas City. But I came out of the game thinking, yes, it's annoying and problematic, like what's going on with the officiating around this team and specifically Patrick Mahomes. But they know how to win in January, and all these other teams just can't figure it out, and they keep winning as a result.
I think the officiating part is a Conor special, so I'm going to leave that for Conor because I think that's right up his.
I think he wrote about it for Sports Illustrated. Yeah.
Well, and it's apt. I think it's apt. I mean, but to me, this was kind of what the Chiefs have been all year. They are unremarkable on offense. They don't dazzle us with special effects. They score just enough points, and they sack C.J. Stroud 8 times. It's a Steve Spagnuolo special. And I thought they kind of found the pressure points with the Texans. There was a moment in this game. The Texans had this like a 15-play, 80-plus yard drive that they could have tied this game up, and then they missed the extra point, and then the Chiefs go down and cap it on them by themselves with another 13-play long drive where Travis Kelce had a touchdown, and it was one of his best games of the year. And so it's like the Chiefs just did Chiefs things, and it was enough. But I thought their defense really, really created incredible pressure and found a way, like we thought that would happen to the Texans at some point, to create a lot of havoc for C.J. Stroud. 8 sacks.
How does the Travis Kelce thing happen, by the way? I mean, it's incredible that he goes in this game. And, I feel like I talked about it a lot during the season because I did draft him in fantasy, and I was like waiting for Travis Kelce to look like Travis Kelce. Doesn't. Playoff start, 7 catches on 8 targets, 117 yards, and a touchdown. And, again, Connor, when you pair that version of Mahomes, of Kelce, who the same thing happened last year, where he just kind of exhumed himself from the crypt right when January hit, it gives this offense the balance that it's lacked a lot during the season, and that big play over the middle element of the offense, which is especially important because the offensive line is not holding up. So having Kelce there as a security blanket is vital for the passing game.
Yeah, Joe Tooney had a tough one in this one, and again, you're an interior player being asked to play, left tackle, which is incredibly difficult. But Jordan, who's brilliant, Rodriguez said a couple of days ago on the show where was very awesome. We all got to do it together. That this is a middle of the field kind of game for the Chiefs, just the way that the Texans are going to play them defensively, and you can just tell the difference that it makes in Mahomes, in the rhythm of the offense, and just getting Kelsey involved again. That was the 49-yard one was his longest postseason touchdown ever. And he's one of the 2 or 3 most prolific postseason receivers in NFL history. So, it's, whatever.
It's him and Jerry Rice. That's pretty wild.
When we did the Chiefs Hallmark movie watch party, my favorite line from Dan was upper middle class family wins again. And that was that's how I feel about the Chiefs, where it's wow, it's like a big Kelsey game. And it's just yep, upper middle class family wins again.
Yeah. And the Texans and their fans can complain about the officiating, and I get it, but they just did not play it near a high enough level to win in Arrowhead in January. The piss poor pass protection. I thought D'Amico Ryans had a tough game. Some of the coaching decisions on fourth downs. You had numerous special teams breakdowns. In so many of these playoff wins for Kansas City, this stuff is the difference, that the Chiefs play clean and the opponent does not. And then you have Chris Boyd, who's kind of the face of this failure for Houston. Sorry, I know he went to UT, Justin, but the Texans give up a 70-yard return on the opening kickoff. And this guy is running off the field celebrating because he thought that the Chiefs had fumbled away the return, throws his helmet, then shoves the special teams coach. And I'm thinking, I'm watching the game. Did anybody else think to themselves hey, Troy, Joe, can we check in on the special teams guy, assaulting the special teams coach? Is he on the bench? Is he on the sideline? Is he in the local jail? I kind of want to know a little bit more about what happened with Chris Boyd.
I am with you, yes.
And in the defense of Boyd, listen, it's a very emotional spot. He lost his composure after the game. He spoke on that and apologized. But that was like a harbinger of doom for the Texans. Mark, I know you were pretty hot on the Texans going into this game, but that gave me a very bad feeling that they weren't going to be ready for this type of stage.
I don't think I was hot on them. I thought they could. I thought maybe you
don't make us dig up the text, Mark.
Well, I thought maybe you get C.J. Stroud, going on. I would say this: we get these stats every week. We talk about this, but they are the first team in the history of the NFL postseason to outgain their opponent by 100 yards. 0 turnovers and lose. That has never happened before. They weren't a disaster, but the Chiefs are just the Chiefs. You've got to find a way to make it so uncomfortable for Patrick Mahomes, and they didn't.
That's one of those, I call those, can you put that stat up again?
Well, I think it's these stats are absurd at this point.
You know what that is?
I don't care at all.
That's what I call a Jet stat.
Right.
We watch the Jets over season, and every other game, you're this Jets are the first team to outgain, out, and lose. All their teams were 7,000-0 before today's game. So to get a Jet stat in the playoffs, that's going to hurt, Mark.
Not good. And I don't even like pointing those out because I think that they're largely absurd. But they didn't go in and completely crap their pants. I don't even like that phrase, but I thought they did the best they could, and it's a fitting end for the Houston Texans. It is a fitting end.
Yeah,
I think too. The Bobby Slowick and Texans offensive coordinator. This was all season long, right? Anytime that you were asking about this team, it's when are we going to see version 2.0 of this offense? They kind of went to Houston with the Shanahan starter pack, but you have to buy extra bundles. You got to add on. You have to customize, and there was just never any sort of movement forward in this offense. And if you have a defensive coordinator as good as Steve Spagnuolo, he's going to shut that down.
Let's talk about, again, the officiating was a storyline in this game. Here's D'Amico Ryans, who very well done here by D'Amico Ryans, because there are things that you can say and things you cannot say, and if you do say them, you will get a FedEx fine package sitting on your stool when you get back to Houston. But he made it very clear that yes, it was kind of a Houston against the world vibe in Kansas City.
Yeah, we knew going into this game, man, it was us versus everybody. Right? When I say everybody, it's everybody, all of whatever. Everybody, the naysayers, the doubt, right? everybody.
We got you,
we
D'Amico.
had to go against today. And
we're picking up what you're putting down.
With that, knowing going into this game, what we were up against, we can't make the mistakes that we made, right? We had a lot of self-inflicted mistakes that happened, whether it's special teams, not converting our kicks, defensively, not being where we're supposed to be in coverage, all offensively, not protecting our quarterback and keeping them clean. So, you marry that on top of everything else that we have to deal with. It's going to be a really tough uphill battle.
And it's a bad look what's happening with Patrick Mahomes. And it's not just Patrick Mahomes, but he is the face of this. The Texans get called for 2 personal foul, unnecessary roughness calls on hits on Mahomes. The first one was borderline, but the rules guy for Fox said, or ESPN said, no, that shouldn't have been a penalty. The second one was a total farce where Mahomes is sliding to the ground. Right as he starts sliding is when the 2 defenders converge and basically hit each other. Mahomes barely gets hit, and that's a 15-yard penalty. These things lead to points. These things change games. And I hope the NFL is paying attention. They're kind of sullying the Chiefs a little bit by all of this vitriol being sent the way of Mahomes for the way the officiating is called. And when Troy Aikman, one of the most famous quarterbacks in America in the last 50 years, is on TV talking like this, you should stand up and pay attention to changes that might be necessary.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense number 39.
Oh, come on.
15-yard penalty.
Here's the end of it. Yeah, he's a runner, and I could not disagree with that one more, and he barely gets hit. That's the second penalty now that's been called against the Texans.
And Troy, I agree with you. There's no forcible contact to the head neck area of him. The 2 Houston players hit each other. That should not have been a foul.
And they've got to address it in the offseason. You can't, as a quarterback, run around and play games with defenders and then be able to draw a penalty.
I agree with Troy wholeheartedly, and I was thinking a lot about this. Well, first I'll say this. That didn't annoy me as much visually, because if you think about it, an official down on the field, it's a bang-bang play, and you throw the flag, whatever. There needs to be a mechanism, or at least a more common, we need to normalize them picking those flags up, which I think that they have at their disposal. They can do that. But the fact that 8 plays later on that drive, Patrick Mahomes tries to go run out of bounds and then tries to bait a defender into hitting him and knocking him out of bounds for a flag shows the fact that he thinks he has one over on the officials and that he expects these calls and that he's too cute for everybody else. And the problem that I have with this whole thing is that we wrote the rule book at a time when most of the quarterbacks were like Rich Gannon, who are not physically able to do a lot of the things that these quarterbacks can do now. Now, if you go and you look at every NFL team, 1 through 32, I did this the other day, generously speaking, 26 of the 32 teams have a quarterback that you would consider mobile. These guys are the best athletes on the field now, and they can manipulate the rules as they're written to their advantage. They can run towards the sideline and stop on a dime. They can slide quicker. They can do all these other things, and the rule book hasn't caught up to it yet. And so I think you should be able to review roughing the passer, because it was 1,300 yards were given out on roughing the passer calls this year. That's ridiculous. You should be able to review that. And what Mahomes does on the sideline and what Josh Allen does on the sideline, a lot of these guys do on the sideline, should be a 15-yard penalty with consideration for expulsion, because it's a dangerous play. And you should also eliminate the late slide. That's a dangerous play too. These are dangerous plays. It's a health and safety issue. But whatever. I'm I can, if we got another 45 minutes, I can keep going on this. But
I think you're so right. And I think for all of us, because Dan, you talk about, you watch these games with your children, when it becomes a visual disgrace, when we all can see that something is going on that we don't agree with visually, we need to make changes. And I think the NFL's been pretty good about this in general. We've got to address stuff and make the game as competitive and not try to hoodwink the audience. But none of it, I think Troy Aikman's response makes me feel that there's some justice to it, because if he sees it and he feels that way, I feel that way too.
And, even in the late game on Saturday, Jaden Daniels ran a QB option at one point. He hands the ball off, and then he takes a shot, and out comes the laundry again. And I'm thinking to myself, if you are running the QB option, you should have to live with the consequences that your guy can get smoked. And it doesn't, just because he takes a hard hit doesn't mean the laundry has to come out. And then what really will drive you crazy, and we'll move on after this, but like poor Jared Goff, who I know is not a journeyman or anything, but he's not at the stature of the Mahomeses, the Burrows, the Lamars, the Josh Allens. He merely gets assassinated on the field on that pick six return, and nobody throws a goddamn flag. Can you even imagine? They would lower the flags at Park Avenue to half-mast if Patrick Mahomes took the hit on a pick six that poor Jared Goff took, and they don't even flag it. They look the other way on it.
And it's not just Goff. I mean, Jalen Hurts today. Lamar Jackson got knocked into a water cooler how many times in this Buffalo game? Like, he gets officiated differently. It's just how it is.
I guess that's what you get when you win 3 Super Bowl MVPs, but it doesn't make it right. Anyway, but the Chiefs, we can get mad at the Chiefs, but the Chiefs or the NFL's how they handle the officiating of the Chiefs, but how can you not respect that the Chiefs again are hosting the AFC Championship game for the 7th straight year? They're in the Final Four of the NFL. I mean, that is unbelievable. We're about to get into the Lions, like a team that had everything in the world going for them. They can't even get to the game this year, and the Chiefs have done it 7 years in a row, and they're 16-2. All right, let's take a break. And then we'll hit the NFC. This episode of Heed the Call is brought to you by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. If you're struggling to stay disciplined this year, therapy can help. Therapy empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it's not just for those who have experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, join the over 5 million people who have given BetterHelp a try. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient. With BetterHelp, you have access to a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Plus, you can easily switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/HTC today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/HTC.
The College Football Playoff National Championship is finally here, and we're kicking off the action with a playoff progressive. It's easy. Just use each token to unlock the next. Here's how it works. Find your playoff progressive token in your promos and use it on a college football or NBA entry to earn a discount token. Use that discount token to unlock a 50% profit boost, and use that 50% profit boost token to unlock a free pick token. So if you haven't started playing yet, scan the QR code on your screen to download and play on the Underdog app. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, sign up with the code HTC. New users can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when they deposit. For our U.S. audience only.
All right, we are back. Divisional round playoffs. Can you believe it? There's only 3 games left. Mark, 3 games left in the NFL season now.
It is remarkable. This is how it works. We've been watching the NFL for multiple decades, and it seems to work that way every year, and it's working that way once again.
What's so funny, Connor?
This is how it works. Like, it's like, I don't know. He got me on that one. That was good.
It's kind of a means to an end answer, and it got the job done. I like your tasteful hotel room lighting behind you, Connor. The type of lamps that only are found in hotel rooms. Like, no one would go to an IKEA or whatever and buy that for their house, but there it is. 2 rectangles.
And then there's also, I was showing Justin while we were doing a speed test on my internet. There's like I'm watching my wife with another man couch over here, where it's like that.
Sure. Well, you got to have that.
Because like, what else are those chairs? I don't know. Like, there's just like, do you curl up with a book and read in isolation in your hotel room? I don't know. I read on the bed. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
what the
that's
couch
like
is for.
in like the movie, the husband that's sitting there is always kind of like cross-legged with like kind of his hand over his mouth. Maybe he has a cigarette and he's kind of in the darkness a little bit, but a little bit of light coming in.
Just
is there anyone in there right now?
It could be a late night version of Conor. Like if you came in after, you had a strange night out, you'd be sitting on that little couch and ponder the world. That could be you.
I can look out right now and see I can almost see the New Jersey Turnpike from here. It's very scenic. Beautiful.
Do you guys want to, before we get into the NFC side of things, want to hear poor Lamar Jackson? And by the way, shout out to Lamar, who was really, he came right up to Josh Allen in midfield and with a smile and a hearty congratulations. I mean, great sportsmanship. And then Josh kind of repaid that in his post-game comments to Wolfson, praising Lamar as one of the best to ever do it. But Lamar, obviously, the disappointment is something you can't hide. Here is Lamar Jackson, frustrated about the sloppiness that cost the Ravens this special season.
First half, I had 2 costly turnovers. Me not holding the safety, me just knowing the coverage, me knowing it was a man, threw a BS interception. It was 7-7 at the time. I believe they scored after that. Battle back, fumble, snap, trying to make something happen. Couldn't throw it. It was like a RPO play, so I couldn't really throw the ball to likely, the offensive line was down the field. So I was trying to make something happen. Tried to squeeze the ball, it slipped out my hand. Von Miller picked it up, got some yards. I think that led to points for them. So it's a team effort out there. He been busting his behind, he making plays happen out there on that field for us. Came up short. And like I've been saying all season, every time we in situations like this, turnovers play a factor. Penalties play a factor. Tonight, the turnovers, we can't have that shit, And that's why we lost the game, because as you can see, we're moving the ball wonderfully. It's hold on to the ball. I'm sorry for my language, but this shit annoying. I'm tired of this shit, man.
Can I just add one? I don't understand from a fashion angle, the cloth helmet that he seems to want to wear.
I was struggling
week in,
there.
Yeah. It's not
I'm
a great
taking
look.
Him seriously.
But it's hard to take it. Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to take him seriously.
For the podcast audience, for the audio listeners, he's wearing what would be like a nun's habit if you got rid of the black fabric and just had the white fabric left behind.
It's the thing below it.
But he's like a 6'3", 215 pound, brilliant athlete, speaking from his heart about a crushing setback in his career.
It's a tough look. I will say I'm glad that you brought up. I thought these things don't move me that much. But the way that he did come up with almost a joy in his heart to hug Josh Allen, I thought that said something about Lamar Jackson. But that look, we need to work on that look. But that's 2 different clashing issues, I guess.
Two guys in the same spot in their career. What was that?
He looks like remember the bowling pins from Big Lebowski in that one scene where they're all in the spandex.
That's exactly right. Maybe we could do a side-by-side of that, Justin. All right, let us move now to the NFC. Marc Sessler, the Detroit Lions. This is the year for the Detroit Lions. Just like Lamar taking the ball on that last possession, everything was in front of Lamar. And for the Lions, with the Commanders coming into the building and a chance to get to the NFC title game, it was all in front of the Lions. And then it all got away.
Well, we don't always get the perfect story. We don't always get what we want. The Lions were the perfect story. Our nation, in love with the Lions. The idea of the Detroit Lions. But here come the Commanders, smashing a tattered Detroit defense for 182 yards on the ground, and Angel lands. Jaden Daniels, calm as a cucumber. Are you watching in a quarter zip, a button-down shirt, a used tee with a big front yard? Is your significant other slightly disappointed in you, but she doesn't say it verbally? You just sense it? That's how one would feel with the destiny of the Detroit Lions. You didn't achieve the greatest event. Instead, you were upended by a joyful feast known as the Commanders, a defense generating 5 takeaways, an offense that never relents. 4th down, endless attempts. 4th down, a floral garden. The nation's capital is a strange place. It's long been called Hollywood for ugly people, but the Commanders, the looks of the citizenry aside, are a powerful football team that now soars where nobody expected. Commanders 45, Lions 31. Weird feelings.
What a moment for Commanders fans, for Washington fans who've been through the ringer and went into that building And on the Thursday show, I think we all dismissed them. I got a tweet that was fair. Sometimes you people send good tweets, and it makes me think. Many times, especially if you're an Eagles fan, you just send stupid things that are easy for me to filter out of my brain. But Commanders fan said, hey, you guys didn't even, on Thursday, kind of get into how the Commanders could win this game. You didn't really give the Commanders a chance. And then we went and we saw exactly how the Commanders could win the game. With an offense that took off in this game, Mark, and then a defense that kept on forcing turnovers and then put everything on Jared Goff. And that doesn't end well, typically, for Jared Goff in his career.
There are versions of the Lions, I feel like. There's the pristine version where they go and drop an A-bomb on someone. Then there's the Goff game where Goff mixed with other teammates are addicted to turning the ball over. And I don't care who you are. If you're going to turn the ball over 5 times and play the way that they did and really not get off the ground early enough, and we're all learning about the Commanders in real time. I think that's part of it. It's like it's easy in a preview show to say probably they can't handle the Lions, but what we're learning about, I think, the Commanders is like this quarterback and this offense are capable of anything. Like they seem like you cannot suppress them. And they absolutely slayed a Lions team that finally the bow broke when it came to the injuries, the defense. And if the offense is gonna not do its job and you've got to lean on second, third, and fourth team defenders against a quarterback that he's done this like 7 times, where it's like, it doesn't matter where we are in the fourth quarter, I'm going to find a way to score. And so I'm not saying that it was wrong not to give them credit before the game, but I think at this point, like, have we not turned the corner? We realized they could beat anyone. They could beat anyone. And they just took care of business in one of the most unfriendly environments to play a football game in front of a rowdy crowd and a city that was yearning and like frothing for this victory. And they took care of business. And again, it's Jayden Daniels sitting there like, hey, no problem. This happened too. And it's like, you've been in the league for less than a year. Whoa.
I was going to say too, I mean, I think, if you were to spell out, like if you were to try to like input the occurrences into this game into AI and then ask a computer whether or not the Lions won. Like, okay, the Commanders kicker starts off by blasting the ball out of bounds. They run this ridiculous Marcus Mariota 4th down play where
Yes.
it looks like a complete accident. Right. Jahmyr Gibbs is completely unstoppable in this game, rushes for like 120 yards and it just looks unbelievable. Amon-Ra St. Brown is over 100, receiving yards. You would say, and the Lions score first. You would say there's a 0% chance the Commanders won this game. Like, there's no way. But give credit to Cliff Kingsbury. I thought this has been the season of Cliff. I thought he was unbelievable with Jayden Daniels in this game. And in a moment where it says a lot about an OC, I think, in a moment where everybody knows you're going to need to get him easy completions to get it going, but he still got him productive and easy completions that got him going. And it's just, I thought that was a really good job by him.
And isn't it the marriage of also Dan Quinn, who, a defensive coach, is willing on 4th down just to be as aggressive as Dan Campbell. Like, he's like, I'll out-aggressive the Lions. Like, I thought that was a huge part of this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you're right. The way the game starts, it seems like it's going a certain direction, and then for them to kind of just get things calmed down and then just start to take it to the Lions. And you one of my favorite things in sports, and it's in it could be in football, it could be in the NBA, it could be in baseball, it could be wherever, right? When the team that is the heavy favorite is in their building and the crowd's going nuts, and then something happens and you could actually feel through your television that nervous energy that starts pulsating through the entire place with 80,000 people all thinking the same thing. It's akin to what I said about the Steelers-Ravens game last week, which is, to win this game, the Commanders needed the Russian is cut moment, and that was the pick 6 that Jared Goff throws, where he gets absolutely destroyed, and it shouldn't even been a touchdown. But like we said, the refs did not call it. But that pick 6, who had the pick 6 again? Whoever it was, the pick 6. We'll get that name. But that play was what really made me think, oh my God, this could actually happen. And then to the Lions' credit and Ben Johnson's credit, They then dial up one of their patented trick plays, and they go, 70, 80 yards on Jameson Williams just darting through, and the crowd is right back in it. But even when they get right back in it, the Commanders and Jaden Daniels just kept on taking it to them. And then when you dotted in these turnovers, including they have a chance to get it down to one score going into half, and Goff throws that bad interception targeting Williams where he underthrows him and that gets undercut for the interception. It was a combination of the relentlessness of the Jaden Daniels-led offense, obviously the great pressure being put on Goff in moments, and then the Lions doing the thing that all the teams that went home this weekend did, these self-inflicted mistakes on this stage that you cannot overcome.
Speaking of which, I thought, again, Ben Johnson's brilliant, at least with this group, right? He's brilliant with the best offensive line in football, and he's brilliant with this group of playmakers, right? And we don't know what he'll be after this. But if I had one complaint, it was that you can't call a trick play in which Jameson Williams throws a ball in this game because, Jameson Williams, you could see the thought process, and then he's just like, well, I'm only going to get one shot at this. And he just chucks it down the field and it gets intercepted. And it's like, I think sometimes we do outthink ourselves and we get a little bit too cute. And, I think that there's some of these circumstances where, that guy shouldn't be near a football when he's throwing it. And
can I just push back on that a little bit, Connor, though? Like, I know that was kind of the general thought was like, I can't believe they called that. And it's kind of ironic that for the second straight year, the Lions go out. Last year, they got killed for being too aggressive on fourth down, which they made famous last year. And this year, the turnover on the trick play is what kind of dooms them for good in the second half, which they had been praised all this year for their trick plays. Like, there is something so accountability on the player, Jameson Williams, and I get it. Like, You don't trust him to make the right decision. But that play call, I imagine, is done with the idea that, hey, man, if he's double covered, if there's nothing there, you throw it out of bounds. Yes. So you're hoping the player makes the right decision. Now, if this is a conversation, I guess, that you don't give him the chance to make a decision, but that doesn't seem like Detroit Lions football, not to empower their guys to be able to be special and make the right choices. So I was a little more torn on whether or not that was a quote-unquote bad play. It generally was panned by all after it didn't work.
You're right. It's like a chicken or the egg moment. It's like, did they properly instill in Jameson Williams the idea that if it's not there, you throw it away? Or did Jameson Williams just make the decision in the moment to be like, nah, I'm going to do something really cool here?
And he's made some bad decisions, Jameson Williams.
No, he's not. Not at all. No.
So that's fair too. Let's check out the locker room of the Washington Commanders after this historic win for the Josh Harris-led team.
Three things, man. First one is this. Ball is life, man. Plus 5 tonight. Talked about being heavy hitters, and you're for damn sure some heavy hitters now. Yes, from the first day we got together, it's on our wall. Anybody, anywhere, anything. All right, we love you guys. Let's find out where it is tomorrow. Take our show back on the road. Yes, sir.
Wow, what a comeback for Dan Quinn getting another shot as the head coach. And yes, they will be going to Philadelphia next Sunday. But yeah, Mark, Detroit will not forget this disappointment. This was absolutely crushing, and the NFL is all about windows. And well, I'm not saying that the window's closing, but the window over the last couple of years was slowly opening, but now it's going to start closing. And there are reasons why you can make that case, that why they had a chance to really seize the moment, and to see them fail in that regard was kind of shocking.
They're different to me and to everyone, obviously, than like a Buffalo Bills, where your window is Josh Allen, or your window in Cincinnati is Joe Burrow. Like in Detroit, you have coaxed the best possible football you could dream of from Jared Goff. But now you are losing the play caller, probably likely in Ben Johnson, who made that offense intricate, special, unique, strange, hard to deal with, and probably Aaron Glenn, your defensive coordinator. And so I think that matters in football a lot. We saw what happened to the Eagles team under Doug Peterson when those coordinators left. Like, this matters. Like, sometimes your brain power and your ingenuity comes from these hardworking coordinators and position coaches, not necessarily the CEO, the head coach. And so I think Dan Campbell is all that, and he's good. But like, this is major mind power leaving the building very soon with a non-elite quarterback. So the window is different than I'd look at for different types of teams that seem like a superpower.
Yeah, and this team, I remember talking about it on the show after I think it was in week 17, they outlasted the Niners 40-34. And to me, like, this game was a reminder, but they were always a little bit more vulnerable than your typical 15-2 juggernaut, because in the end, what was always the worst case scenario, which you thought could happen, but you also thought, well, this also feels like a special year and maybe it won't happen, is that all it took was a bad day from a injury-ravaged defense, and then coupled with, okay, now the season is in the hands of Jared Goff, and it's like, Jared, don't make the wrong decisions, don't press, don't fumble when you get rushed, and all that stuff happened. So it turned into kind of like a Murphy's Law type game, and it was enough to completely eradicate from existence this beautiful Detroit Lions team and great story that I think a lot of us thought was destined to end in New Orleans, win or lose, them finally getting to the Super Bowl. So one of the more crushing divisional round losses that I can ever remember a team suffering, just because what it meant, what felt like was the stakes were, and what was expected, quite frankly, going into it.
You're right.
And it's the how, right? It's like, like you look back at like the Terry McLaurin touchdown, for example, the really long one, but started with the short pass, the long run. And, this is a team that, the Lions beat the crap out of the Vikings a couple of weeks ago with these feisty cornerbacks and stuff. And now they're just getting blocked off the field, by the Commanders' wide receivers. Like there was, and yes, granted, injuries do play a factor there, but there was like an out aggressiveness from the Commanders towards the Lions where it was like they kind of stepped up and they took all the punches and they punched back. Detroit wasn't used to that at any point this season, and I think that has to be like kind of a weird way to go uniquely.
All right, here's Dan Campbell. Obviously, I don't have to tell you, emotional in his post-game address to the reporters.
It's hard, when you lose these games, man. It's like the players, what they put into it. A lot of people don't know, what they go through. You have to get up. Bodies beat to shit and, mentally stay locked in and do those things. So, long season.
What happened on the 12-man on the field penalty?
It's my fault. It's my fault.
He's referring, that was a question, if you didn't hear it clearly, that, they had so many opportunities to maybe change the tide, and their defense just could not make the play. None bigger than the 4th and 2 in the fourth quarter, where they have a chance to get a stop and really make a game of it and even steal it. But they have 12 men on the field, and that then leads to the touchdown that essentially puts the game away. Just a really tough night for a defense that we can't just blame it on the injuries, right? Because nobody was just talking about the injuries when they dismantled the Minnesota Vikings in the regular season finale, right? And they had found a way, and that's why Aaron Glenn's still going to get a job. And anybody who thinks he shouldn't get a job now because they had a terrible game here, that's silly. That's not going to be the case. But there's no excuse really to say it was because of the injuries, because they've shown that they could adapt. They just had a bad night. Is it as simple as that? Like, sometimes a team has a bad night, and the Lions. It was a bad night, timing for a bad night, and the Lions are home as a result.
It's pretty, I think it's the kind of sports team, and Dan Campbell, right there, kind of exudes the energy that we feel about the Lions, that they're a little different than another football team losing, and it feels a little sad, a little tragic. And yet, for everyone except for one team, it's going to be a very tragic end. But the Lions were a little different to me, I think, for all of us, and they fought through a lot of ups and downs. That's kind of who they were. That's their character, and it came to an end.
And Conor, Jaden Daniels, before we move on. I mean, this is where is he now rank in the best rookie seasons of, let's say, the 21st century? 2 playoff wins. But this, you know what's different about this guy? Like, even in my fandom, like, Mark Sanchez did this. He had back-to-back years where he won 2 road games and got to NFC title games, or AFC title games. But in all the other cases where a rookie quarterback goes on a run in the playoffs, he's almost always supported by a big-time defense and a running game. That is not the case with the Commanders. They have this kid that's actually putting the team on his back, and he didn't do it alone in this game, as we've been talking about. But what he's doing is kind of unprecedented, how he's carrying a team as a rookie. A pretty special dude.
Yeah, you remember, like, even Sanchez' early career. Ben Roethlisberger, I think, had the 15-1 season, and those were not win because of quarterbacks, they were just win in spite of quarterbacks, while those guys were still developing and they were still coming around. I mean, I think back to all the things that I wish I would have tweeted right at the beginning of the season, and one of which was that there was all these a handful of coaches right before the draft that said, why the hell isn't anyone talking about the fact that this is the best player in the draft? Why isn't anyone talking about this? Why aren't the Bears talking about him as the number 1 pick? And, I think it was very obvious and clear to some people that there was just this special quality to him. And, for some reason, whatever it is, he ends up at the number 2 pick. But he's absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, dynamite game plan in this one too. But for him to come into this game at Ford Field and just have to have the stones just to throw down the field in tight coverage, there's just absolute fearlessness from him, and it's great. It's so much fun to watch.
To that point, under pressure, this via Next Gen Stats. Under pressure, 7 of 9, 109 yards. Versus the blitz, 12 of 16, 191 yards, touchdown. He got the ball out quick. He got the ball out accurately, and he was not sacked in this game. So here we are again, the team that plays clean, the team that protects the quarterback, the team that doesn't shoot itself in the foot and make mistakes, continues to play for the Super Bowl, and the other team goes home. I just don't think anybody predicted it would be the Commanders that were making all the right moves. Haven't
we turned a corner, though, at this point? Like, now I'm like, oh, he could just win the Super Bowl. Like, he was blitzed more in this game, the second most of his entire season. Like, I am done trying to supersede another team or operation over him at this point. Like, I might just ride this train.
Well, you know what, too? Like, I love divisional round playoffs. I like watching games on Saturday and not having any podcasting responsibilities. Just a really fun thing that I enjoyed. Have a couple of drinks, watch it with some friends and family. It was a lot of fun. And then I'll be more engaged on Twitter just as like a football fan. And like some people are like hitting me up like, oh man, you're gonna struggle because I know you picked the Commanders to get beat and the Lions are your lock of the week. No, this is why sports is great. Like yes. I only care about one team in that way. It's the Jets, and that sucks for me. But everything else is like with predictions, and most of it's like that's all fun for the show. But like this is a way better outcome to that sports and the NFL can continue to surprise and quite frankly in this case amaze you. So I'll trade off losing my lock of the week to have this like dynamo now going into Philadelphia where the Eagles, we're about to get to the Eagles.
Well, that accomplishes maybe multiple goals of yours.
I mean, listen, Jaden Daniels is 60 minutes away from being, I'm a Commanders fan, put it that way.
Yes, you are.
Lifetime Commanders fan if this goes a certain way. But anyway, unbelievable. Sorry to the Lions and their fans. We thought this was your year, but you'll be okay. We just don't know what's going on next. Tough. All right. We take one more break here, Justin? All right, one more break, and then we'll be back with the final game. How's the start of 2025 going for you? Make it even better by playing on Underdog. It's easy. All you need to do is pick higher or lower on player stats, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your entry. So don't miss out. Just scan the QR code on your screen to download and play on the Underdog app. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, sign up with the code HTC. New users can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when they deposit. Make the most of your sports fandom by playing along on Underdog for our U.S. audience only. All right, one more game. Yes, the Washington Commanders will be on the road in the NFC title game. They're going to Philly. This is how it happened. Conor Orr.
Yeah. Do you love the Chiefs' confounding brand of narrow victory football predicated mostly on the ill-timed, nervous pooping of their opponents, but hate the fact that every now and then you have to watch an awesome Patrick Mahomes throw? Then you're going to love Playoff Eagles, a badass unit of beefy lumberjack men who toil in obscurity, biding their time between 100-yard touchdown runs, which to this point remains their only means of survival. Eagles 28, Rams 22, but it's more complicated than that. The Eagles got 2 Rams fumbles, went up 13 points with 4 minutes to go on a 78-yard touchdown run from Barkley, and still had to sweat out a final Rams attempt at a game-winning drive. That's because the story, to me, time and time again, an injured Jalen Hurts was asked to drop back with a banged-up knee in the snow against a vicious pass rush, 7 sacks, 6 hits. But the name of the game is survival. Eagles Commanders 3 next Sunday at the Link. See you there, drunk Santa Claus.
Yes, the Eagles survive. That would have been. And if you are among those that were enjoying this Rams team, or perhaps are just not a fan of these Philadelphia Eagles, you could take some solace in the amount of sweating and the bullets pouring down the brows and cheeks of Eagles fans on that last possession, because it got hairy. After the Barkley touchdown that sent Philadelphia into a massive celebration, 78-yard run. He crosses the goal line with 4:36 to play, puts Philly up 28-15. Jake Elliott misses the extra point, which didn't seem like a big deal at the time. But then they go, I don't know, like Connor knows the schemes better than me. It felt, or it played like a prevent defense by the Eagles that allows the Rams to go right down the field. They get down to inside the 10-yard line in about 5 or 6 plays. It takes a couple plays, but they do punch it in to get it to 28-22. And then, yes, like Connor's saying, you have a compromised Jalen Hurts, and you are attempting a pass on 2nd and 7 rather than just giving Saquon Barkley the rock 3 times in a row and see what happens. Instead, you take a sack, minus 12 yards, and the Rams take it all the way down. They take over again. They have a 10-play drive. They take it down. They have the ball 1st and 10 at the Philadelphia 21, 3rd and 2 at the Philadelphia 13-yard line. Mark, that's it got close, but to Philadelphia's credit, they did, and I think a big false start penalty by Dotson kind of changed the momentum of that drive. It allowed Philadelphia to substitute on their defensive line. It backed the Rams up into a poor down and distance at 2nd and 12, and they never really recovered as a result.
I think we can talk about the Eagles is like they haven't had a 300-yard passing game all season.
Wow.
Like, to win 14 games and that not be the way that they're winning games. I mean, we understand that it's Saquon Barkley at the core of it. If I want to spin it positive, I think I've seen this Eagles defense really step up. And look, they absorbed 7 sacks today on offense, like Jalen Hurts, and he was banged up. The Rams defense is on fire. They've got a great pass rush, and the Eagles found a way to get it done with big run game. But I think to me this was another Vic Fangio special. Jalen Carter is the guy that I would point to that just played out of his mind. And this guy plays 69 out of 70 snaps every time out there, and he is the centerpiece. And I thought he was on fire in this game. And so this was an elements game where I thought the snow, and Connor, you were there, so you can tell me what you think, but like, I thought the snow and the weather really affected both teams, and it really affected the Rams a lot. And Matthew Stafford was a little banged up in this too, but like, this to me was an Eagles defensive game where like, we're going to find a different way to win because our offense right now is compromised, passing wise.
I want to go back to just for a second because that was a great stat about the lack of the 300-yard passing games. So there were, at the beginning of this game, the way that the Rams played this defensively, right? On passing downs, they had kind of a lighter box, and then they would mix it up with pressure. They would fake that they were going to bring guys and then drop them back into coverage, just stuff to throw Jalen Hurts off his game. But that's how the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns early in that game. The Rams showed them those fronts that were a little bit lighter, and then Hurts runs for like a 40-yard touchdown. Then Barkley runs for a 60-yard touchdown. From that point on, they just started allowing the Rams to blitz like that or to run their stunts or their games up front like that. But they were just dropping Jalen Hurts like 5 or 6 yards into the backfield every time. Twice they were sacked out of field goal range. There was another situation where, and on both of those, you didn't have Saquon Barkley in your best pass protecting back. You had getting Kenneth Gainwell. In another situation, you're backed up against your own goal line at the 4-yard line, and you drop Jalen Hurts into the end zone after he hurt his knee. Like, this is beyond malpractice. I have no idea why you were making some of these decisions.
And Mark, Jalen Hurts threw for 128 yards in this game. So it's
not like not thrown for 200 yards in 2 playoff games, like combined.
I didn't see, A.J. Brown now in 2 playoff games. He has 3 catches. The offense is totally compromised. And like, listen, I'm not here to tell you like that I can dial up the scheme that's going to shut down the Eagles in the NFC title game. But if you're Washington, I'm coaching a flag football team this year of 3rd and 4th graders, and we had our opening game on Friday night. By the way, Jim Harbaugh's either son or grandson is on one of the teams in the league, and he walked right by me when I was warming up my team. It's a little bit of an intimidating moment when you're coaching your first flag football game and literally Jim Harbaugh walks by.
So, yeah, sure.
I was like, oh God, don't notice these drills.
You're like the league's Nick Sirianni. You just don't want to.
Exactly.
You don't want that to be known.
Exactly. So in this game, this is a quick aside, but it will tie back into what's happening with the Eagles right now. In this game, my team of merry 9 and 10-year-olds are getting hammered early, and there's this kid on the other team that my team they were calling Juice WRLD because he looked like the late rapper Juice WRLD, and he was just shredding us. And he scored 3 touchdowns early, and we're down 19-0. We end up mounting a great comeback. We lose, I think, 33-26. So I was happy with how we adjusted. You know how we adjusted? I said, Juice WRLD is not going to beat us. And I said, we're going to take our safety, and I'm going to take my fastest kid, and we will only put them. You guys are following Juice WRLD everywhere he goes. And that changed our offense. Why wouldn't the Commanders, at this point, what we are seeing with the Philadelphia Eagles, just put everything into stopping Saquon and dare a compromised beat up Jalen Hurts in a passing game that's broken for the Eagles to beat you? Otherwise, if Saquon Barkley runs for 200 yards next weekend, that is malpractice. Maybe you physically can't stop Saquon Barkley because he is that good and he is in that zone in a special place that few athletes get to ever. But I would think the Commanders have to be all in on stopping the run next week. And we'll talk about all that. But watching this game, it amazes me that they can win these games with the offense being as unbalanced as it is.
And to the offensive line's credit, I mean, Mekhi Becton had a good and bad game, but, we saw him literally throw a Rams linebacker like 5 yards downfield on Saquon Barkley's touchdown. We saw AJ
Jets fans were annoyed about that.
Yeah. He, by the way, in the post-game locker room, had on this corduroy Louis Vuitton outfit that just looked so cool, and this big gold chain, giant. And he was going up to other guys and being like, "Do you see what I'm wearing?" And the guys are like, "Louis!" It was very cool. I was like very happy for Mekhi Becton. He seems to be in a very good place. Good. But AJ Brown on one of the Saquon touchdown runs threw a phenomenal block. Like, they have massive space movers that are excellent at this. But I'll tell you this, Dan, to your point about selling out to stop Saquon Barkley, On the 74-yard touchdown run, he wasn't even lined up in the right place. He was supposed to be on the other side of Jalen Hurts, and he got about this big. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up about half a dollar bill in terms of length between that's how big the space was that he got, and just crushed it. And it was a dead sprint in the snow, and everyone was having trouble with that snow. It was a very wet, sort of sloppy, muddy snow, and he was gone. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, before Hurts got injured, and this again speaks to the talent that offensive line possesses, and it was the play where Becton just put a clown suit on the defensive player, knocked him down. Jordan Mailata, being the athlete he gets to the second level. He doesn't know even a block. There's such a huge, they have blown open such a hole that Hurts goes in all the way for the score. So they are well equipped to be a team. They're maybe, Mark, the only team that can beat you when you know they're going to run the football. But they're getting to the point where the passing game is so inert that you know they're not going to beat you that way. It's going to be, if they could get through the NFC in this way, it'll be quite an achievement, I have to say.
It is a different Eagles team than the previous year, but it's interesting that Dan Quinn knows this offensive line. He knows this team and this offense. He knows Jalen Hurts. They were without Saquon before, but that matchup intrigues me. We will get on to that. But for me, I think the Eagles are balanced because of the defense. I really think they can win in different ways. And I am concerned, though, because you're talking about a quarterback that has had a nasty concussion. He now has a knee injury. He had other injuries this season. What condition is he in at this point? Because it seems, I'm not saying they're playing around Jalen Hurts, but it's kind of like they're slowly playing around Jalen Hurts a little bit. And he's not the reason they're winning. And I don't know how a quarterback who's not the reason you're winning takes you on and on.
Here's sound from Jalen Hurts on how injured he is and whether he is going to play in the NFC title game.
For this week, you said you'll see how the week goes. Is your status uncertain for next week?
Great question. No, I was just seeing how the week will go.
Great question.
Seeing how things progress.
So you think you feel confident you'll play next week, I guess?
Yeah.
Good to get a great question in there if you're a reporter.
Yeah,
it feels
Jalen
good.
Hurts dressed like Eddie Murphy in Boomerang there, by the way. Except for Marcus. He was jacked up. He was jacked up. Yes, Justin.
I thought he looked like Woody from Toy Story.
You were correct, Justin. Good job.
Okay. By the way, if I had a great bod like Jalen Hurts, I'd be wearing something that wasn't overly baggy. I'm not into this look. I'm just going to say it. But
you have a great bod, though, from what I've seen in person.
That's blatantly incorrect, but thank you. Well, you're a very kind man. No, so he gets taken down in the second half, jacks up his knee very clearly, and Conor brought up dropping him back in his own end zone to get smoked for that safety. Where, by the way, kind of surviving by the skin of their teeth. That ball is moving as he takes a hit. That could have been a touchdown for the Rams, and all of a sudden Los Angeles is ahead in that game. I mean, the Eagles, very fortunate in a lot of ways in this game, but they do survive. So the question is now, I don't think you're going to get a 55-yard Jalen Hurts touchdown run next week. The question is, can he play the position in the way they need him to play the position to beat the Commanders? Because we know the Commanders, despite this great, inspiring 2-week run, are a fun team and a dangerous team, but they're going to be I would think a 6.5-point underdog in this game. The Eagles are still going to be expected to win, but if Hurts is really compromised, it does get that much closer.
Can you, just very quickly for my own self, can you guys please confirm that Chris Collinsworth didn't say it was an amazing gutsy call for Nick Sirianni to do a deep bootleg for Jalen Hurts at the end of that game? Was anyone listening to that? I just don't believe it. I had posted why on earth are they doing this? And I got 100 tweets that Chris Collinsworth said it was an amazing gutsy call by Nick Sirianni to drop him 12 yards into the backfield on that play. Did you see Kobe Turner go after him? I know this guy can't move. I'm just going to run up there and tackle him.
Oh, my God. How about Jared Verse in this game, by the way?
Jared Verse, Byron Young, Kobe Turner. Braden Fisk got hurt in this game, and they were still that's what's crazy. You know what I mean?
a tough loss for the Rams for all the reasons that we said, that they were right there, couldn't get over the hump. Here's Sean McVay.
You know, this is the time for gratitude, for appreciation. I love this group. I love this coaching staff. I love these players. And I also understand and appreciate how difficult it is to be in positions like this, where you've got the game, you got the game in hand. I felt like we had total control towards the latter part of that game. Momentum was in our favor. And we had an opportunity to be able to win that game, and we just came up short. And I'm just really sad that this journey is over. This was a special season. It's as much fun as I've had, as much as you've ever wanted to do right for the people in that locker room.
Tough loss. Matthew Stafford, after the game, said he's thinking about everything, but obviously playing at a very high level. It was great to have the insight all season long, obviously, from Jordan Rodriguez that she gives covering the Rams. And the thing that she kind of taught us about Stafford this year is the dark Matthew energy that he feeds off pain. He feeds off being put in a corner, and you could see that in this game. And that's why I really thought that he was going to finish off that last drive, and what drama that would be if he did. But ultimately, the Rams fall just short. But that organization is obviously moving in the right direction.
And she fashioned that. She latched onto that dark Matthew Stafford energy a couple seasons ago, and she knows better than anyone. Connor, you got to hang out with her today. That's kind of cool. But what a fascinating coaching job by Sean McVay. No one thought this team, when they started the way they did, were going to be anywhere. And so I think Sean McVay is like one of the 4 or 5 difference-making coaches in the league, and they'll be fine.
Being able to confer with Jordan, like I had texted her an observation of mine at the end of, maybe it was like midway through the second quarter, and she just explained it so thoroughly and so incredibly well, and I was just like, God damn it! Like, I just wish I could cover every game with you. And she's the best.
We're very lucky to have Jordan, and we'll obviously have Jordan involved for the rest of the playoffs on our show. The Eagles, like I said, 128 yards passing, 63 yards from sacks, and in team passing stats that gets subtracted from the total. So they finish with 65 passing yards overall as a team. So, yeah, well, they are going to need that defense.
That's like your football team that you're coaching. That's about probably how many yards
it was a tough first half.
Yeah.
But we figured out, we diagnosed some things, and it was a spirited comeback. And the kids are feeling in a really good place.
You are an adjuster. You adjust. We can see you growing before our eyes as an on-field motivator and coach.
I thought that was a body dig after you set me up and you said that my body was growing before your eyes, too.
I said your body was attractive. That's what I recall saying.
I ain't buying it. Was A.J. Brown reading the book today?
No, but he invited, but the author was there. He invited the author to the game. The author got to come to the game. So he was there. So maybe he didn't need to read the book. It'd be tough to bring the book, in the elements, because then you're going to get destroyed. That's the one drawback to paperback.
Oh, that's fair.
That's a good point.
And last point, because I do want to, you got to give the Eagles fans know where I'm at, but I'll give them flowers. The Barkley acquisition, he is kind of like, he's now hitting this point where he's like, for the old heads out there, Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl, like, he's going to break one. It's going to be anywhere between 50 and 80 yards. And if you're on the opposing team, you just hope it doesn't break your back. And in this case, it kind of did for the Rams. And what he's doing on a weekly basis, that's what I was saying on the Thursday preview, Mark. I was saying, Saquon, like, you are in a very special moment in time that few running backs in the history of the league have ever reach the level that you're at. Don't slide down at the end of that game. Get those yards. Like, set an unbreakable playoff rushing yardage record, because in addition to the 150 or whatever, he put up 130 last week, he goes 26 for 205 and 2 touchdowns with that 78-yarder. That's unbelievable. And
it's the perfect marriage. Like, he's got the perfect offensive line, and this is like because Saquon, I think he used to have like 25 carries sometimes for 48 yards, and but we're getting the break loose, go wild version of Saquon, and I think that's why they could beat anyone.
Mm-hmm. And the defense, in addition to forcing that big Kyron Williams fumble, I thought they did, and getting the stop, obviously, to clinch the game. they did a really good job with Puka Nacua in this game, who did heat up near the end on that last drive, and including making a big 37-yard gain. But to hold Nacua under 100 yards in this game is something that very few teams have been able to do this season, and it really it kind of shut down the Rams' attack in a lot of ways. So, let's see if the Eagles can continue to run for over 250 yards a game, because I think they're going to have to 285 in this game to go with the 65 yards passing, and they find enough plays. Our buddy Dan Soupy from the Wonder Years texted me right after the game to kind of try to rub it in a little bit. He's like, listen, I predicted the Eagles to win, so how could I be upset? Nailed
Well,
my
he's
prediction.
probably annoyed with your general demeanor towards the team, like dating back to August.
Yeah, I get that. Eagles fans, listen, Eagles fans
you
have
and
been on
Connor,
both
by the
sides
way.
of it.
Connor's not innocent here, the two of you.
I know, I'm not in a good spot. I'm not in a good spot with
I
them.
feel like your game intro isn't going to help matters either.
Probably not. So Dan texted me a few eagle emojis after the game, and Dan is good because
You mean
always
Soupy from the Wonder Years, the band The Wonder Years.
correct. Yes. And
I am not texting anyone Eagles emojis.
I often use him as a barometer for Philadelphia in general. He has a finger to the pulse of the city, and I said, Dan, how much trouble am I going to be in when I just write about how shitty I think this team is after they made the NFC Championship game? And he's like, yeah, it's not going to be good for you at all. And so far, he's right. So just based on what I'm seeing on social media. So.
Well, we'll see if the Eagles can take it all the way to New Orleans. We'll have a full week of shows, obviously, ahead of the championship Sunday. And I think the biggest winner, ultimately, guys, I thought was Nate Burleson, who, after Ravens-Bills, got not only was able to tee up the idea of a Mahomes-Allen showdown. He also got a plug-in for Hollywood Squares, which he hosts on CBS.
Oh, jeez.
He said, too many times circle is block the square. With that being Josh Allen being blocked by Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, wow. That's what I'm going to remember about this Sunday.
I gave your man my very own podcast.
Yeah, let's hope Hollywood Squares exceeds one episode.
He was also very brave in telling Mark Andrews, he did the thing where he was like, where's my camera? And he got centered up, and he's just like, Mark, hold your head up high. And I was like, come on. I would say 90% of America is in the spot where we feel sick for Mark Andrews. We don't need, and the people who are not feeling sick for Mark Andrews are not watching CBS right now. Right. They're smoking cigarettes and trying to figure out how to recoup their DraftKings losses, and downing a bottle of brown liquor. You know what I mean? That those people are not going to be able to be reached by Nate Burleson right now.
But perhaps, just to tell the both sides of this, there's a 0.00001% chance that Mark Andrews has found a quiet area of the visitors' locker room, maybe in the laundry area, and he's got a small, 20-inch television with the bunny ears, and he's looking right back at Nate Burleson, who's looking right into his eyes.
Is that the person you want?
Thankfully, Nate Burleson is putting it in perspective that he will rise above it.
Well, you're probably right.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
We can't have a
and this tweet.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Justin. Mark Andrews wasn't available to speak to reporters in the locker room after the game. And you know what? People want to get on him, people like Connor, because he's a journalist. They must be accountable.
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't want to put you in the bucket.
He's good.
Give the man a little space.
Yeah, he's good.
He's going to have to live with that for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. He's fine.
That would be awesome if we wake up, Mark, in the morning to a scathing column from Conor Orr about the lack of accountability of Mark Andrews that tells the stories of the Ravens' failures in the 2020s.
I think just for your own pleasure, Connor, as an experiment, test that column and see what occurs to you.
I've had enough I've had enough talking to people on the internet.
Just get the entire East Coast of NFL wanting to kill you.
It's like from Kansas City all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. We're
down
not
the
doing
turnpike.
great. Yeah, it's been
You
tough.
just have to hide out in a Bailey's suite in Atlantic City and hope that Commanders or Ravens fans and Eagles fans don't find you.
Can we just say this though, very definitively, and I mean this with no disrespect whatsoever to the Eagles fans beyond what I have already expressed, or to Chiefs fans. We cannot have another goddamn Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. We can't have it.
I'd agree with that.
We can't have it. Stylistically, it's just not there. I can't watch this.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Nope. We're not able to. We're not able to.
If you want, listen, to everybody else, accepting the fan bases, obviously, but unless you want a replay of that last Rams-Patriots, the 13-3 game, if that's what you want, root for Kansas City and Philadelphia next Sunday. The rest of us, we're rooting for America.
Bingo.
Bills Commanders would be a weird market Super Bowl, but it's also electric.
Well, they played back in '91.
Yeah.
It'll do a huge number. Hey, it'll do a huge number no matter what. It's a Super Bowl.
Rock hard.
What was that, Tony?
Rock hard.
All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday. With beginning to dig in on, yes, both this and everything else in the NFL. You know what we do. Until next time, heed the call. Rock hard.